Hello, you find me from Storo Station at the tippy top of the Oslo Metro Ring Line, a weird line built in the early 2000s that connects the suburban Sognsvann and Vestli lines of the metro together outside of the city core, and is the reason that Line 5 has that weird double loop. However, on the day I was there was construction going on that meant that Line 4 was turning at the station, and there were essentially 3 separate Line 5s, but that's a whole different story. Anyway, the Line 4 trains would terminate using a pocket track that the station has. They didn't use it as a pocket track, they used it more like an elongated crossover. It was a pretty efficient operation, though. I didn't really experience many delays when I was out. But this isn't the reason that we're talking about Storo Station today. We're talking about Storo Station today for 2 main reasons. One, it has an insane amount of multimodal activity. It has the most transit modes connecting to it than any other station that isn't in the city center of Oslo. And it has a very, very secret piece of track that I'm going to talk to you about. This video is an entry into the super secret transit video contest hosted by Classy Whale. If you want to participate in any of his contests, link to his channel and Discord are in the description. Alright, now the first thing you probably noticed of the video that I recorded was that you could see basically the metro tracks, and then next to that, the mainline tracks, and next to that, if you look closely, you can see the tram tracks. They're a lot more visible when a tram is actually on them, though. But aside from that, directly above the metro station canopy, at the very back end of the platform, there's another tram stop called Storo that is on lines 12, 15, and 18. 15 is a temporary, in air quotes, line, because it's supposed to replace line 11, which is being renovated for like 2 years, but yeah, that's a whole different story. Anyway, to the west of Grefsen Station, line 18 is the tram line that runs along this parallel section, but it's line 17 to the east. In practice, trams usually become a tram on the other line. Sometimes they'll reverse here, but most of the time an 18 will become a 17 and vice versa. With trams, trains, metro, and buses running relatively frequently through this area, there's a lot of transit spotting action that can take place here. And when you add in a few service changes into the mix, like the Line 4 trains turning here, you get some pretty interesting footage out of it. So, let's take a look at this Line 4 train leaving the station before we wrap up. And surely that's going to be the end of it, right? Wait, what is that section of track right there to the left? Like, clearly you can see that part of it is the pocket track ending and the track merging back into the regular running lines, but it looks like there's a section that keeps going further to the left, and that can't be right. Let me check the track map for this. Wait a minute, there's an arrow here. So, like, the track just keeps going, or where does this end up? Well, I guess I finally have to tell you guys about this line's connection to the Gjøvik line. Yes, really. So, why build a connecting track between the mainline rail line and your metro line? Well, it's simple and complicated at the same time. Let's start with the simple part. Flexibility for train deliveries and taking trains out of the system. It's a lot easier to add new trains to your system when you can just take them from wherever they're being built by train and then shunt them into the metro system directly through the use of probably a diesel shunter or something like that, because the switch is manual and it is unpowered. However, that's still miles better than having to go all the way down to Alnabru with your new trains and then drive them through the city to one of the metro yards. So they use them just to increase the flexibility of getting new trains, so they can order more new trains at once, so you don't have to deal with the logistics of clogging up the streets. And they actually did use this, although not for ordering new trains. They used them for, as far as I know, for the retiring of the T2000 series trains, not the retiring, the scrapping of them, when all of the units but one were sent up by Jørvik, which is coincidentally right on the Jørvik line, to be scrapped. So when you have the connection like that, and the destination for those trains is literally on that line, it's too good not to use it. So, what's the other reason this connection existed? Well, the other reason is that this wasn't supposed to be the only connection, in the sense that between Storo and Sinsen, the line was originally supposed to use the tracks of the Jørvik line, which is absolutely insane, and didn't work out for a number of reasons, one of them being, well, mainline trains are much bigger. Not much bigger, but they're still bigger. And the voltages, I believe, became a problem because they weren't compatible with the ones used on the metro system with the third rail, or with the overhead powered system in the west of the city at the time, because Oslo's metro for a while was split in half into essentially like a light rail and a metro. So the T2000 were actually dual mode because of that. But adding in a third voltage to the mix would have messed everything up, and it would have meant either converting the whole Jørvik line and the actual state railways ordering new trains for it, or it would have meant having to keep dual mode trains even after upgrading your older light rail lines to metro lines. And that doesn't even begin to cover the part about, well, how do you timetable in those Jørvik line trains onto this, on top of the metro trains. So that idea did not last long and was quickly ruled out. After this plan was thrown out, we ended up just getting what we got with the metro line, running parallel to the main line, not sharing tracks with it, and the connecting track between the two. Now, from what I could find, I don't think this track was actually used for the delivery of the Oslo Metro's current fleet of MX3000 trains. And I think that's partially because they were built, I think, out of the country, because they were built by Siemens, and they were instead then driven, because you'd have to, if you wanted to ship them by train, you'd have to go all the way through Denmark and Sweden. So they ended up just driving those in. But if we get some future domestic rolling stock manufacturer in Norway that makes some new trains for the Oslo Metro, after the already being planned new trains enter service, then we might be able to use them for actually delivering trains. They are probably going to be used to take trains out of the system still, for when the MX3000s get retired in the very, very distant future. But yeah, that is going to do it for this video. I kind of rushed in this one. Well, not really. So, at the time of me recording this voiceover, I actually haven't finished the Bergman video yet. But this one's probably going to come out after that one. Hopefully. If that one doesn't take 3 years to edit. But yeah, big shout out to the people in the Classy Will server for creating this contest and this opportunity for me to make a video and have a decent upload schedule. So yeah, that's going to be it for me. I'm the Autistic Transfer Fan, and I'll see you in the next one.